So good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear us clearly? Yes? Okay, that's lovely. So I must say that first it's a challenge to speak just after Madame Jo Malone. And just imagine that you need 6 of us not to replace, but to take enough content and passion than Madame Jo Malone herself. So welcome everyone to the roundtable. Today we're going to talk about trends and influences. And what's the idea behind the roundtable? Well, we are here to better understand where the global interest for Arabic perfumery comes from. And we had the chance this last week to discuss with each member of our panel separately. And today we're here to share the insightful information that we got the chance to collect and generate together. And I must say, as it comes to Gulf perfumery, I would like to make you think. We would like you to reflect on a few questions. Do you think that the region is a region of trends creators, or rather a region of consumerism with consumers with higher purchasing power? Do you believe that the fragrance brands who come here actually embrace the culture and heritage of the region, or just sell fragrances answering the needs of local customers? So these questions will be answered today throughout our conversation through various examples, going from niche fragrances, fine fragrances, to FMCG examples. And just before we start, let us introduce each other so then you know each member of our panel. So my name is Valerie Lovisa. I am a sustainability consultant specialized in the field of fragrance and cosmetics, and I will be your moderator today. Please, Sana.
Hi, thank you, Valerie. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Sana Choyakh. I'm the managing director of Flair and Vision. I'm a marketing and business consultant specialized in products that are linked to fragrance and FMCG.
I'm Olimpia. I am the co-founder of Anfasic Dokhoon. It's a beauty oriental brand leading the market since 15 years.
Aljaberi, the founder of WIDIAN fragrances.
Leila.
I cannot hear you.
Yeah, before we move on, do you hear us clearly? Only Leila, okay.
Hi everyone.
Oh.
My name is Leila. I'm a strategy consultant. I am a founder of 2 brands of fashion and beauty. I'm a perfume influencer, lover, and also a collector. And I am so honored to be here with so many important people and amazing from Fragrance World.
Hi everybody, and I am Vincent Ricord. I'm a perfumer, and I'm a perfumer in the team at CPL Aromas.
So welcome everyone on board. Now we can start the discussion. But I must say that you've been very modest on your title and then your passion that you have for the industry. So we have a lot to share today. Ali, I would like to start with you because you've been here from the very beginning. So we would like to know more about the trends that were happening in the region when you just started thinking about the concept of WIDIAN. What was happening in the region, and how did you come up with the concept of developing WIDIAN fragrances and range?
At the time we started, the market in the region and the consumers as well are divided into 2 sections. Oriental fragrances that are produced and mastered by some companies in the region like Ajmal, Abdul Samad al-Qurashi, and then you have the Western brands. Then after that, in the early 2000s, a new trend came up, which is mixing both the Oriental fragrances and the Western ones. At that time, the pioneers were Tom Ford, especially with Tuscan leather, Micallef, Muhammad Hilal with Pink Musk, for example. They were the pioneers in this trend. And it was not an easy trend because you need to understand what people here in the region want. And when we saw that lots of international brands are trying to ride the same wave and come up with the same trend, most of them were not successful. Only the ones are, if I can say, they have experience in the region and what they want. So the idea of WIDIAN is doing the opposite immigration. So instead of waiting for the big brands to come to us and deliver and create Oriental fragrances, we want to create Oriental fragrances to the rest of the world. And it's like the opposite immigration, if I can say.
And there's also something very interesting that came out of our conversation is that in the region we talk about perfumery as an art. So then it's a real craftsmanship. You are curating a fragrance. So would you like to tell us a bit more about the concept of curation and craftsmanship?
For Oriental fragrances, usually it's carried from generation to another. If you look at the big players and the old ones like Ajmal, Abdul Samad al-Qurashi, nowadays maybe you're dealing with the third generation, not only the first one. So they have the experience, the collective experience as well. And then you have the new generation who's taking care of the new trends. While some other newcomers are coming very strongly because they have the background from generations, but not in, if I can say, commercial way. Locally, we have very successful ones that are relatively new compared to those names, but at the same time, they're not purely new. They inherited this love for Oriental fragrances from their parents, from their grandparents, so they're not relatively new to this industry. The new thing is adapting the Western side of perfumery and mixing it with the Oriental side. This is the new one. And not everyone is really successful. You have to understand what people want. What is a really nice fragrance to them? What is wearable and what's not? Mixing Oriental ingredients doesn't make it really nice Oriental fragrance.
Understood, totally. Thank you very much, Ali. That was very clear.
Thank you.
So we talked about the trends that happened back at the time when Ali started working on WIDIAN. Now we'd like to talk about the trends, the current trends that happened on the market. So we got the chance to invite Leila as a famous influencer with us today.
Thank
and
you.
without telling everything directly, because we're going to talk about the strengths of Gulf perfumery, but first, could you give us a few insights on Gulf perfumery that we should know when we don't really know the region?
Yes, absolutely. For us, perfume is more than just perfume. It's a lifestyle, and it's absolutely an art. If you think about Italians, when first they meet, what do? They look at their shoes, right? Because this is the first thing that you notice. You want to see if they look groomed and good. The first thing that we do when we go out, when we meet each other, is to check our perfume, because this is the first thing that you notice when you meet a person. So every time we have gatherings or meetings or we go out, the one thing that we do is to be impressed by the perfumes that we wear. So sometimes when I go out, when I do my ritual of fragrance, because it's a ritual, it's not only wearing one scent. I think about what my friends will say about my scent. So I always like to impress them. I always like that they ask me, what do you wear, or what is this? And it's also, what do I mean by saying that it's more than just a fragrance? Is because we love to layer and to personalize our fragrance to our style and personality and character and mood. So every time is different. Even though we wear, let's say, the same scent, just because we do a different layering, it will smell different. So this is how we impress people. And also, one more thing that I really love, whenever I'm wearing a scent and I go to a meeting or with new people or even in business, when they tell me that every time you move your hands, the perfume is moving with you, and I love that. It gives something that, a feeling that, you know, you are doing something to impress people, and it's really nice. So in golf, it's more than just wearing a perfume. It's a lifestyle with art blended together.
It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Leila.
Thank you.
And now I'm turning to Ali again. I'm sorry, now is your time. We're going to ask you many questions, especially that we want to really understand the region and then the specificities. So could you share with us one insights regarding the use of fragrances in Western countries versus Middle Eastern countries? What's the main difference that you noticed in the way that we purchase fragrances and then we use fragrances versus personalities, lifestyles?
In the West, usually it's more like a signature scent for everyone. And when they buy a fragrance, it's like they're investing in something. So usually when they feel like this fragrance is me, like this is made for me, it becomes their signature scent. Every day, every occasion. Of course, not everyone, but this is like the mainstream. While in the region, it depends on the mood. It depends on the occasion. What is your mood today? What is the occasion today? Am I going to a wedding or meeting my friends? Am I going to work or going working out, for example? That's why people in the Middle East, usually they have a collection of fragrances, because each fragrance meant to be for a different occasion and a different mood. While in the West, it's more like a personal investment. This is my personality. This is more me. So they stick to one or two fragrances, and this is where I see the main difference is. People think that we consume lots of fragrances because we like to buy things or consume things. It's just the perspective, the way we think about fragrances. We think it's part of what we wear. It depends on, usually like when you choose your clothes, it depends on the occasion, on the timing, where you're going, who you're meeting with. So the same thing with fragrance. And that's why we have big collections of fragrances as Middle Easterns.
So based on your mood and then your emotion of the day.
Exactly.
And this is something as well that throughout our conversation is going to change with the next generation, with the Gen Z. Because when the Gen Z are selecting fragrances, it's no more based on their signature scent. But we are moving towards a more golf way of using fragrances.
And also usually here, people like to change their fragrances. They like to try the new trends. Lots of them, they don't like to repeat the same fragrance twice. Like if they consume the full bottle, it's empty. They don't want to buy the same one. They want to buy a new one. And that's why here, the trends are more successful than other regions of the world. While in Europe, for example, when you go to the store itself is trying to, or the people in the store, they're trying to find you the right scent for you. While here, they're trying to give you what's the trend right now.
True.
So even the way of selling fragrances is different between here and the West.
True. It's a very good point.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
There is another insight that we shared with Leila recently. It's about the use of oud.
Yes.
And the report that we have with climate. Could you tell us a bit more? What's the best temperature to wear oud? What is the conception of the use of agarwood in the Western countries?
So there is this misconception that I could see and I heard from so many people from Western side that they believe that oud is to be worn in cold weather, which is completely wrong because oud is a raw material. And now I'm talking about oils and not about fragrance. So when you are wearing an oud oil, you need to have a bit of warmer environment. I don't mean to have a complete heat like somewhere in Dubai, but when oud is touching your skin, it will develop like a flower. So in time you will start to feel the sweetness of it, or it's more animalic, or it has notes of chocolate or saffron, and this is completely all natural. While if you are wearing it in winter where there is a cold weather and your skin is cold, the raw material doesn't have the right environment to develop. So it will be very sharp and it will be completely linear. So sometimes people I have a lot of my followers that they are telling me that, oh, I'm wearing this only in winter, or I don't like it because it's very sharp and it's only for winter. I recommend it in late autumn days, which is very beautiful. Of course, we are wearing here all the time, non-stop. But it depends also on the region from where the oud is coming. I think oud it's becoming so overused by everyone in perfumery, and very less they know that natural oud, it has completely different notes depending on the forest and region they are coming. So we have oud from India, of course, which is very famous, then from Vietnam, from Philippines, from Brunei, from so many different regions of the world. And also it has so many different type of smells. You will have a green one, you will have one that smells like fruits or like flowers, and this all depends on the climate and the forest that the oud is coming from. So I do recommend people that they want to use oud oils to have a little bit of warmer environment and leave it for hours, because it will smell completely different, and it will give also the sillage and more fragrant all around your area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there is another point that we wanted to talk about. Now that we know that people love agarwood, do you have other specific examples showing that there is a global reach for Gulf perfumery? Because you got the chance to travel the world, especially before COVID, and as an influencer, you've been checking all the trends that there is on the market. So what are the examples that you'd like to share with us today of global reach?
Yes, so perfumery has different trends all over the world. Even in Middle East, based on the country, we have different tastes. So let's say in Kuwait, they like more of the green, more greenish oud like Silani, or more patchouli, more leathery scents. In UAE, they like more sweet type of oud. And then in Qatar, you have more of the heavy woods. They like to use a lot of ambergris. They have completely different style of wearing their perfumes and their ritual of layering. And then Saudi Arabia, which is completely huge, and they are so modern, so they capture almost everything around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now let's talk about products and Olimpia. We got the chance to meet at Essence this year. So would you like to share with us what was the interest of the market for our products, for our perfumery?
So first of all, I'd like to go back to your original question.
Okay, super. Let's go.
And let us. So, are we setting trends or are we riding a wave?
Yes.
And I think, of course, the consumer in this region is very sophisticated, very educated, and has high purchase power. So it is obviously a very interesting market to tap into for anybody. And brands have been coming here for years and years, doing great results with what we call Western perfumery. And now what we've seen is that there is no such thing as Western or Oriental anymore. And remember, we were having this conversation.
Exactly.
What is Middle Eastern? What is Gulf? What is Arabic? What is Western? There's no such difference anymore, right? I remember 20 years ago sitting in grass, talking to perfumers, trying to make them understand what oud smelled like and what we were trying to achieve. And now we have perfumers who know oud very well and can craft beautiful fragrances for the most, internationally recognized brands.
And we'll have a very good example later with Vincent, by the way, was going to talk about his way of creating fragrances with agarwood.
So when we exposed ourselves for the first time in Milan, obviously we realized that oud is the talk of the town, and not from now, it's been around 10 years. I would say that it's not about the ingredients anymore. I think what we call it Emirati, right? So when we revamped the whole fragrance wheel for our brands, Hindalud, Anfasic, Dokhoon, and Khaltat, we looked at it and we realized we had a whole category of fragrances that did not sit anywhere. They cannot be called Oriental. And yet they portrayed oud in a very different way. So it's that sweet, woody, warm sillage that will linger. So the key is to make fragrances extremely long-lasting. And that was pioneered by Mohammed Hilal. So by doing that, we created a brand new category that did not exist. That is this different way of working with oud that comes from this region and that is now being exported worldwide. And and believe it or not, when we reached Milan, we realized that those were the fragrances people were craving, the ones that they did not know before.
And this is a very good point that you just shared with us. It's the sillage. One of the main reasons why Gulf perfumery is so successful, or Emirati perfumery is so successful with your latest creation and your first creations as well, it's the sillage and then the strength of the fragrances. And then we'll come to you in a minute. And would you like to share with us some insights about Essence, which is a fair which happens in Italy once a year that is specialized in niche brands?
So this is about fragrances, but of course, as Anfasic Dokhoon focuses on the burning element of fragrances. And I think the novelty for an international market was to discover incense from a very different perspective. So when in Europe, or let's say in the Western world, when you think of incense, you think of maybe well-being and spirituality, or you would think of scenting your home. Whereas where we come from here is scenting yourself first. So Dokhoon or incense or bahur is not for the environment, that's more like a consequence, it's like a byproduct, but it's actually a fine fragrance. And it's a fragrance for your fabrics, for your clothes. And that's the basis of the layering that Leila was talking about.
Yes.
And
thank you.
People were impressed and they loved it and they thought it was fascinating. So actually we received more interest in that aspect than in fragrances, which yes, of course, they're beautiful fragrances, but there are so many other fragrance brands.
So you could feel there was a lot of traction towards these products especially. Yes. Thank you for sharing. Now, we'd like to focus a bit on FMCG products. So we have the chance to welcome Sana with us on board today. She specializes in marketing for FMCG, former head of marketing at Givaudan for the Samia region, who started her own consultancy in the field of fragrance and cosmetics. So Sana, could you share with us some example, your greatest example of global reach of Gulf perfumery?
Well, if I hear now all the comments about the fine fragrance in the region, we talk about sillage, we talk about how important the fragrance in the culture. It's imprinted in the culture. It's part of the way we live our lives, right? In the Gulf, let's say, and in Middle East in general. If we look to FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods, and we think about whatever is fragranced in FMCG would be going from your detergent, your floor cleaner, to your air care, and also to your personal care. So this is the scope of what we call FMCG. Brands like from P&G to Henkel to Unilever, etc. So I had the chance to work in Henkel. I was head of Persil at that time. And I remember very well how important it was for an international brand, a German brand, to really understand the importance of the trends in this region. First of all, if you talk to a consumer in the Middle East, even doing laundry is an important moment for her to have that sillage in the house, in the entire house, the house, which will be filled with the smell of cleanliness. This is on a detergent level, and it's a pride for her as the woman responsible for the house. Smelling this is a moment of pride. And going beyond that, when Persil launched Persil Abaya, it was a very successful story. But beyond that, we understood the importance of also embracing the cultural aspect of the fragrance. And this is why, at that time, we launched Persil Oud. Persil Oud was a big, big success. And you talked about the mixture between Oriental and Western. Actually, the idea came from fine fragrances, from the Western brands who launched Oud, because they understood the importance of embracing this like fantastic and very interesting trend. And this is when Persil was created. Another example is DAC, which is a floor cleaner in Saudi. And it was a disinfectant. But when Henkel understood the importance of the fragrance in this region, it's not just about cleaning. And then DAC became cleaning plus fragrance, and this is when it became the #1 in the region. And there is Bahour, there is Oud, there is roses, jasmine. These are the olfactive directions that are very liked in this region. So this is how we see the translation from, usually the trickle down comes from fine fragrances, because this is the more glamorous part, but we see the trickle down in every aspect of the fast moving consumer goods.
And there is one other example that we have to mention, like in the matter of air fragrances, but in a very luxurious environment. It's about a famous hotel here.
Yes, exactly.
That started a trend, right?
So if we look to the trend of having the fragrance in the HVAC, in the AC, it started here. You go to the Address Hotel, and when I came initially, the first time I came to Dubai, I was impressed. I was like, oh my God, this smell is just so intoxicating, so addictive, and I love it. It becomes like you're imprinting smell as a brand. The brand goes beyond marketing visually. It's the marketing of by the scent, and it becomes a memorable emotional experience that goes with you. It's a piece of you as a brand in the mind of your customers or consumers, and that's the beauty of scent marketing that started here in this region, and that's fantastic. Now we see it across the world.
That's beautiful. So through our first question, we demonstrated that Gulf perfumery infiltrated the market through fine fragrances, niche markets, niche fragrances, FMCGs, plus luxurious air fragrances as well. And now I'm turning to you, Vincent, as a perfumer, and sorry for keeping you waiting for so long, because I know you want to talk about fragrances and you're passionate about the industry. So according to you, why are the fragrances of the region so successful all over the world?
For me, it's as a perfumer, you learn how to compose fragrances. And for that, the first step is just to learn all the raw materials. And this is something quite personal, and you discover some masterpiece, like we call the Rose Absolute. I can't do...
Can you up? Yeah, we don't, yeah. Could you please put it a bit up?
Over there, maybe?
I think it sounds good.
Is it good? Thank you. So as a perfumer, you start to learn your vocabulary, and your vocabulary is made of raw materials. And in those raw materials, there is many of them who are giving you a lot of emotions. But as soon as you got those raw materials, sometimes you, by my experience, I learned in Grasse, so it was a really nice place to have this experience. And you forget sometimes with some projects, because it's like that. I started to become a perfumer and learning at the end of the 90s, beginning of 2000, and it was quite transparent accords. It was the great fragrance was CK1, and so all those lovely roses, those lovely jasmines, those lovely amber accords were the 80s. And as soon as I had the chance to meet people from Middle East, I rediscovered some, and I met passionate people, passionate fragrance lovers at least. And we started to talk about the sillage. We just talked about that previously. And it has become something like fantastic, because all those masterpieces of the 80s and previously contained those wonderful raw materials. And with those discussions, we started to build, and I started also to learn how to play with those fantastic raw materials. And I think now, thanks to maybe what we call niche brands, we came to an alternative fragrances who push also the signature with those lovely complex fragrances based on some really seductive accords, some really, we can say, powerful accords. But the thing is, when you get perfumes, is what you were explaining, this is something you think about before choosing your fragrance. This is a message you want to give to someone else. And thanks to that, today, I think the need had changed. Everybody wants to be, to have something, maybe a signature, a personal signature. We'll talk about that a few
But
weeks
this is
ago.
another point. First, we need to talk about the sillage.
Yes, yeah. Sure.
And we need Leila on this as well, because you are the specialist in matter of parfum. So how you describe the difference in matter of sillage between Gulf fragrances and then Western fragrances?
Sure. So Olimpia was mentioning something earlier, that Bakhur is not only for your home here, it's for your own personal clothes. So this is creating really the cloud around you of perfumes. So you have to have the time, first of all, and then the passion and the liking of wearing it, because you have to know how to blend your Bakhur with the perfume and also the oil. For me, layering is not putting 2-3 perfumes together. Layering is how you put your clothes layer. This is how you put your perfume. So this is how you perfume yourself. It's a ritual. So first you start with a body cream, body mist, then you perfume all your clothes. Then while your clothes are a little bit wet, you burn the Bakhur, because this is how it will stain your clothes. Even the hair, we have a whole ritual just for the hair perfumery. So we have a hair mist, we have mahameriya, which is the hair oil, and then we burn also Bakhur for our hair while it's wet. So your hair will smell absolutely amazing all over the time, because when you burn the Bakhur, it will stain your clothes, in your hair, and everywhere. That's why it creates a cloud around you. So besides the fact that our perfumes have really a crazy sillage, and this is amazing, because I believe that brands over here, they have this luxury of using very expensive raw materials, and this is also something that creates the sillage and the smell. Like, you feel clear notes while you are smelling the perfume, and then burning and having all this ritual of fragrance. It will create a sillage and a performance of your signature scent that will last more than 12 hours at least, which is really beautiful. And nowadays we go even to the extent that we burn Bakhur even in our car, in our office. We have the electrical burner, so it goes to another level. And also Olimpia mentioned that the Western customers, they were craving this, because there are so many people from outside that they want to have the same. I have so many questions from people from UK, from Italy, and they tell me that we have colleagues or students that are coming from Middle East, and we don't know what they are using, but they smell amazing more than 10 hours. So they are asking, what do you do? What are you using? Because it doesn't smell just like a perfume. And if they ask them, they say, okay, I'm wearing Gucci or something else, but it's not only the perfume that creates all this personal fragrance. And I think that the market worldwide wants and crave to have this Middle Eastern ritual of fragrance.
And there is something also to complete what you were just saying about the Bakhur, the use of Bakhur to increase the sillage. It's the love of the region for raw materials and impressive raw materials. So would you like to share with us your experience, Vincent?
Certainly, the raw materials are the one not I discover, I knew them. But the thing is, when I'm composing in Paris and I'm working with a lovely combination of saffron and a rose, or it could be a oud, it could be a nagarmota, it could be really charismatic raw materials from the region, it could be incense. You can't experience it if you are not coming. You were talking about the temperature, the heat and everything. It changed totally the way I formulate it. The first time I came here, I rediscovered the expression of those raw materials. And this is also with a lot of humility when I'm working on a Arabic composition, because I know that I felt in love because I've got the same love of fragrances than all the people here. But I compose, I say sometimes like Arabic fragrances with my French accent. It means that I try to recompose what I loved in a lovely structure, and I just play with the wood, I play with the spices, I play, like we were talking also about some really important accords like vanilla and rose, it could be the white musk, all those really fantastic structures. And then I try to put a lot of emotion, because at least what we try to do with the composition is bringing an emotion, bringing a message into a fragrance. And most of the time, this is something we achieve to build here totally differently than what I'm doing in Paris.
True. But there is... and I hope you can still hear me, right? Okay, perfect. And again, you're very humble, Vincent, because you're also a musician, so you're a total artist. And there is one key point that came out of our conversation is that what's truly important is the love for fragrances. And this love for fragrances translates into our fragrances with the use of amazing raw materials. And then the use of raw materials is at the heart of our fragrances. And then you said something very interesting when I came to your booth earlier, because you developed amazing fragrances around the oud and around the music as well, because you're a musician. And you said, when I start developing a fragrance, I start from a white page. I don't start from an existing formula. I take a white page and I start writing it. And I don't apply any cost constraint or any regulation constraint. And then I will check regulation, then I will check the price. But first, I really get inspired by the raw material. That's the essence of my creative process. And this is what you shared with me. And this is what I'd like to share with the audience today, because this is totally in line with the Gulf perfumery, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's what is important, I was explaining, is to have a message. And if you start to have too many rules at the beginning of the creation, it's something maybe you will forget what you wanted to express. And the idea is with a white paper is only a starting point. And we were talking about those wonderful raw materials. When we are talking about the Indian oud, it is something that the raw materials is already perfect. So as soon as I work with it, I just need not to lose what is the main nature of the wood. So then you start a discussion with the raw material. And for that, you just try to present some possibilities to that. We were talking about this wood with a little bit of dark coffee and a little bit of white milk, and then it was working. But if you don't put few words on a piece of paper and too many things, you can avoid and forget what is the main message, I guess.
And I truly loved your expressions that you used, like, I formulate like a French perfumer, and sometimes I do perfumery faux pas, right? And then you formulate with a French accent. I found it so sweet and straight to the point. And sometimes this also generates a lot of creativity and new ideas that we can use and trickle down on the market. And Olimpia, we were talking about something interesting regarding the region. It's the availability of local resources in matter of raw materials. So how did you think that this impacted on the perfumery?
So the cradle of perfumery, many people think it's France, and maybe modern perfumery or floral perfumery, because of the resources available, were born in France. But the cradle of spices and more rich and I would say, warmer to the heart fragrances come from the Oriental world. And Dubai or the UAE is known for being a trade hub. And so there's so many different influences. If you remember, we were even talking about food and how it is influenced by the neighborhood of India versus Iran versus the other Middle Eastern countries. So there is a real nice complexity around the fragrances, which makes the UAE. Ultimately, this is what it is. We're a melting pot. And it's beautiful to see how everyone finds its own identity within an identity.
You're totally right. We are the crossroad of culture, and we were on the trade road. So perfumery was born under the Egyptian Empire here, inspired Western countries under the Roman Empire, and came back here at the time it was no more a priority in the West. And there is another point, Ali, that you rose during our conversation. It was about the climate, and then the need for a specific kind of perfumery because of the climate. Could you tell us a bit more about this?
I think because of the climate, is it okay? Because here we live in a very hot weather. So most of the floral fragrances, they don't last that long because they're very light. And that makes people lean more toward, you know, the heavy ingredients, the oriental ones, like the oud, the amber, the musk, and sandalwood. And they lean more also toward bukhur, because bukhur is absorbed by either your skin or your clothes, so it lasts more and much longer than floral ingredients and citrusy. So the weather plays a vital role in choosing your fragrance. At the same time, during the summer, it's not really wise and advisable to wear heavy oud, okay? Because oud has its own animalic side, and with the heat and with the sweat, the outcome is not pleasant. So you need to be really careful, but this is the main reason why people here lean toward oriental ingredients is more through history. Nowadays we live in a more air-conditioned atmosphere, like shopping malls, offices, now we're at the exhibition. So floral and citrusy fragrances are acceptable and wearable, but in outdoors, I think still we lean toward the oriental ones more.
So perfumery may have been born from a constraint, right? And then developed into a love for perfumery, and then an expertise.
Perfumery is an art, and art evolves with time. So we cannot really say whatever was acceptable 50 years ago, it's still acceptable now. Okay? So people like to evolve and develop and maintain the authenticity of what they have. And here where game changers come, I call them the game changers.
Game changer.
Where how can you create something new at the same time it's 100% authentic and accepted by the locals and your target customers. I would have the privilege, for example, to mention Mohammed Hilal with Hind Al Oud. I'm not saying this because you're here, Mohammed Hilal, but honestly, with 2 fragrances, he changed the game regionally. Pink Musk, where he combined the oriental side with the western side very successfully, and he became one of the pioneers in this category. The second one was converting the mukhallat, which is a very traditional oriental oil, into a spray, which is a modern thing, way to use fragrance. So he moved a successful mukhallat like Sheikh Abdullah to a spray. This is a game changer. And also like Tom Ford with Tuscan leather, Ajmal with Shams, their mukhallat, they turned to they made it as a spray and became a very successful one. these are game changers. They come once every decade, okay? And every brand owner dream to be a game changer once. Every perfumer dream to be a game changer once in his life. So this is now the challenge.
Yes.
And this is where we all want to be in here.
Thank you, Ali, for sharing.
Thank you.
So now I'm turning to our perfumer, Vincent, as a game changer as well, because we have another challenge. It's to please the next generation of perfume lovers, the Gen Z. And then we thought that eventually our new generation of customers were turning into customized perfumery and bespoke fragrances. So would you like to tell us a bit more on this topic especially?
What I observe as a perfumer, this is, I just told you about around 2000, we were all guessing to be dressed like with a blue jean, pair of Nike and a white shirt and wearing CK1, and that was done. And what I see now with the young generation, and as well with my daughters, and they really want to have their own specific style. And it's totally different, and as well with we were just also describing a little bit the niche market and niche brands. We wanted also to propose something else, something more dedicated with another point of view. And what I've discovered, this is something that exists for very such more a long time in the Middle East. And everybody, we were talking about the way you were, the way you were wearing a perfume. It's something so particular. This is not just a spray and I go out. And this kind of how to process this layering is totally in the culture I discover thanks to the trip I have here in this region.
And then this is something, if I'm not mistaken, that you're also leveraging on your stand with the co-creation process that you developed with Oh My Note, right? While you engage with customers and then they co-create the scent and then co-select the scent. It's totally in line with the Gulf perfumery of co-creation because you want to develop something unique.
Definitely.
And if I'm not mistaken, Leila, you are working with some brands in the same direction, right?
Yes, that's true. And I also want to add that it's very clear that the focus is in Middle East. Even the very niche international brands, they look here and they want to have this type of layering in their selection. So we have brands like Gucci Alchemist, that they have also oils they start to develop now that you can layer. So they go more towards the Middle East, and other brands as well like Sergioff, they also have oils. But from a customer perspective, because I am also a customer that loves perfumes, I feel that they are still afraid to cross that line in reaching something that, for example, Hind Al Oud is doing. Like the raw materials that are there, and they are natural, and they are very beyond the limits, let's say. Like maybe some of them are too animalic or too heavy or too, this is when you go beyond the limits. So they are still more towards creating something for the Western or more something that can be pleased more people than creating something that is more specific. But I believe, as Olimpia was mentioning before, that customers all over the world, they want to discover something new, something different. There is something that also Ali mentioned, is that we love perfumes, we love something new every time. It's like a race. Every time we want to have something new, every time you go to a shop, you ask, what is new, what is new? You want something new. As much as you love your old perfumes, I can say that from my collection, which is over 500 bottles, very rarely I will buy the same perfume. And if I buy it, it means that I love it so much that it's that iconic perfume that will last always. It's like a Chanel bag, you know? You have it forever. So there are few iconic perfumes that will stay there forever, and I think that they are so famous, not only in Middle East, even though they are Middle Eastern brands or fragrances. So the idea of layering goes beyond the Gulf countries. And also I want to mention something as well. It's not regarding our question, but I think it's very important to mention is that in Middle East, we don't love only woods and heavy raw materials. We also love flowers. There is a huge culture about roses as raw material and different type of roses, roses from Taif, from Saudi Arabia, roses from Oman, and also jasmine, Arabian jasmine. And this is a raw material that is extremely beautiful and is not very well known outside. And the pink musk is one of the perfumes that is using Arabian jasmine and extremely beautiful. So we love flowers as well, not only heavy spices and so on.
Just to bounce back onto Ali's question, right?
Yes.
And Ali, I'm turning to you now because it's nice to talk about layering. It's good that everybody wants to layer fragrances now, but there is a challenge, right? Challenge in matter of price.
First of all, layering is different between men and women, okay? Women layer different kind of product, if I can say, from hair perfume, hair mist, bukhur, where men usually don't use hair mist. We don't have enough hair to spray on. At the same time, women like bukhur, and bukhur, it comes in different types. Men like to burn the original oud itself. So this is for men, not the scented ones, the perfumed ones. So when we talk about layering, it's either layering different applications or layering different fragrances. When we say different fragrances, it was a trend. It was a trend, I would say, 15 years ago, where there was a limitation in offering Oriental Western fragrances. So people would apply mukhallat and then spray fragrance. Now the market is oversaturated with such idea in one bottle. So I would say that layering different fragrances is disappearing or started to disappear. But layering different applications, it's a different story. Like I want to use bukhur or oud and then spray fragrance.
Totally. And we were talking about identity, saying that layering fragrances and applications would be a way of expressing your personality, right? Would you like to tell us a few more words on this?
Yes, absolutely. I think when you are wearing a fragrance, is like you are wearing your outfit, so you want it to be completely different than anyone else. And nowadays, because some of the fragrances are so famous, I think if we look 4 years back, it was like a trend to wear something that is so famous so people can recognize it. You would be happy to hear that, oh, you are wearing Baccarat, or oh, you are wearing this or that. But nowadays, it's more like you are wearing something completely different and it smells beautiful, and what is it? So I think we go towards the personalization of your own smell. And brands in Middle East used to do this long time ago, and it's not something new for us. We used to have even those events where you create your fragrance on spot or someone is creating it for you and so on. And also other shops that they are creating. Even today you go in the shop and you choose something based on what you like or what emotions you have or the mood that you have and so on. And I think this is the future also in perfumery. The fact that all those niche perfume brands, they try to create something that you are able to layer it and mix it together so you can wear something that is completely yours. you are wearing a perfume that smells like roses, and you can add some other raw materials and make it so personal. So I believe this is the future of fragrances, because we all want something new, we all want something special, something that will define ourselves through scent.
But then the next generation, the Gen Z, maybe they don't have so much time, maybe they don't have so much resources. So we always look for shortcuts, right? And I'm turning to you, Olimpia, because you're representing the next generation, very futuristic brand of fragrances. So what do you think is the next step in matter of layering for the next generation?
So consumers today shop online. They go to malls for what we call retailtainment. So they go to have fun, they go to discover, they go to enjoy. But the actual selection and choice of a fragrance happens less and less in a store. It happens more through reviews. It happens more where you're sitting at home and thinking about maybe a fragrance that was given to you in a sample. So there's a whole customer journey behind just being in a podium and distributing blotters. And nowadays, as Ali was saying, the market is saturated. How many more blotters can we receive in a day, right? So there has to be something else. There has to be a next level of a brand getting closer and closer to people's lives behind what is our newest best friend, which is the screen of our phone.
Yes, true.
And that's where we're innovating and coming up with solutions where we can speak to consumers through their phones. And I'd like to also add that I liked what Leila said about a fragrance being like an outfit. Yes. So it is, I totally agree. It's an accessory or a complement to your look and feel. And I look at it both ways. So it starts from your mood in the morning. So what's the occasion maybe, but also how do you feel today? Do you feel maybe a bit dark and you want to wear a black dress and your fragrance is gonna match that? Or do you feel fresh and floral and it's the weekend and you're going to the beach and then your fragrance is going to also to match that? But automatically when you wear a fragrance, that fragrance imprints in your mind and in your emotions. So that creates a new memory block in your brain. So then that fragrance becomes the game changer of your mood. Does that make sense? So it's both ways.
So I think that
you wear a fragrance because of a certain look maybe, but then it creates a memory, and that memory will make you feel better in the future.
Yeah. So I feel that now Olimpia is investing into neuroscience.
Yes.
So this is the next big thing. This
yes.
is for sure. And
so we're exploring artificial intelligence and seeing how we can be innovative at the same time without losing the human touch. Because ultimately fragrance is all about memories and it's all about emotions.
So we'll get back to artificial intelligence in a second. And I'll just like to ask an extra question to Leila on this topic. So then we were talking about retailtainment, right? Trying to find the alternative, a new solution to entertain customers in store. So then they come shopping in the store and they don't stay only in the comfort of their home to shop fragrances. Do you think that the creation of exclusive collection and collaboration would be an answer as well to these customers?
Yes, I think that customers, they love exclusivity nowadays, because when you create a perfume that is exclusive for a store or for a country, it makes it even more special. The rush to have it and buy it and own it is way higher than the fragrance will be available in your country. That's why I believe that so many niche perfume brands, they create exclusive scents for Harrods, for example, or there are other very big houses that create exclusive perfumes for special events or for Middle East, like Armani Privé. They created a special fragrance for Expo 2020, and so many others that are really exclusive for each country or events or special occasions.
Thank you for sharing, Leila. And now, as a last question, I'm coming back to Olimpia, because really, when we're talking about the future of perfumery, I'm naturally towing towards you with Anfasic Dokhoon and the vision you have for the brand. So could you tell us more about the vision you have for the brand and the particularities of our region in matter of shopping habits, customer experience, and how do you enhance the customer experience?
So I already touched very briefly on it just now, but yeah, the future is communication through technology. And the key is finding solutions where we don't lose the human interaction, the human connection, and the emotional connection, but then evolve the reach and how to get to speak to youngsters that ultimately live through their screens. So that's the next, and creating those bespoke experiences. So it's really more about experience and about personalization than it is anymore about going to a department store with 1,000 fragrances. And so I think people don't really want to be told anymore what is right for them.
Yeah.
They can figure it out themselves, and that's where technology comes in place, to help them figure it out.
Thank you, Olimpia. And I know that you wrote a lot of gifts for us, but we'd like to know more about what you brought for us. Because in the region, we were famous as well about Arabic makeup, the way we're doing makeup in the region, and it became viral and global because of Mona Katan and Huda Beauty and the way she was crafting this tutorial online. And if I'm not mistaken, we also have now with Olimpia and Leila some rise of local skincare and makeup ranges. So would you like to tell us more about cosmetics?
Yes, absolutely. So the gift here is something based on Arabic coffee, because we love Arabic coffee. Arabic coffee is full of spices, saffron, cardamom, and it creates this beautiful environment of Oriental scene. And I believe that if we go towards the makeup, I believe that in Middle East is very, very important, even more important than outside. Our girls, they love to wear makeup on daily basis, not only on special occasions. And I think that we start to develop a lot on the skincare and body care brands, that they are more towards the Oriental side, which is really beautiful. So we have a lot of brands in, especially in Anfasic Dokhoon. They have a wide range of body care, oils, creams, and also makeup. Also in Hind Al Oud, there are few very beautiful creams that are very highly concentrated on perfumery, which they're really beautiful for layering as well, and body mist and so on.
And one last point before we conclude. Olimpia, you crafted a whole range of makeup, if I'm not mistaken. And then when it comes back to your range of makeup, we feel like, if I'm not mistaken, it's a Clarins version. It's our Clarins of the Gulf. Is that right?
Yes. So we don't call it makeup, we call it shay up. And shay is a way of life. It means wow in Emirati slang. It's a way of spreading joy and happiness. And when we were crafting shay up, we said we want women are beautiful no matter what they look. And this is just a little enhancer. But what we really want to bring out is the beauty from within. So this is the core message. And in terms of how we're doing it in a functional way, we developed, it took us almost 3 years to develop a range of products that really, just to cut short, sustain in the desert. So,
thank you.
So high coverage, very long lasting, long wear, and also scented. So believe it or not, the iconic products of Choyakh are the ones that have an olfactive experience.
So the women are thanking you, Olimpia and Leila and you all. So thank you for your participation to the roundtable today. It was a pleasure. We will have, I'm sure that you found it very insightful, and we can't wait to get back to you tomorrow with a roundtable around sustainability, how to become net positive in our industry, and on Wednesday around artificial intelligence, how to leverage AI to better our industry. Thank you very much for your attendance today.